I'm not sure I've seen an outpouring of grief like the one I'm seeing for Catherine O'Hara. Catherine died on Friday. She was 71 years old. Catherine is, of course, a comedy legend in every way. But this grief tells me that people had a really personal relationship with her work. Producer Andrew Barnsley, writer and podcaster Paul Myers, and actor and comedian Jennifer Whalen are all here. Hello and welcome to the show, all of you.
Hello, thanks for having us.
Nice. Nice to have you here. Andrew, I'm going to start with you and just say, first of all, I'm sorry for your loss, man. You worked with Catherine for 6 years on Schitt's Creek. What went through your mind when you heard the news?
I'm in shock instantly. I can tell you the context around me hearing it is very powerful. I was actually in Ottawa for a big television producer conference called Primetime. And this was last week. And on Thursday, the industry was on a high. Mark Carney had shown up, given a speech to celebrate the success of Heated Rivalry and the success of the Canadian industry, and really, messaging his support for what we do and the importance of Canadian talent and Canadian stories. So that evening and into Friday morning, everybody there was just feeling on top of the world.
Yeah.
And then in the morning, I went to a panel that where Mark Critch was on and being hosted by Tom Power. And again, we were just feeling this real great sense of pride of what we did and the importance. And then I went to lunch, and the first person to message me with this news was Alan Hocko. And so it was all these sort of Canadian moments and Canadian energy coming at me. And the message was just a posting that Catherine had passed away. And it was, I just put my phone down. I was with some colleagues and I just was kind of speechless. And it was really tough. And sort of since then, I've just been processing it. I've been reflecting a lot on the 6 years I worked closely with her on Schitt's Creek. And it's been, just what she brought to that show and how open she was and the risks she took. And then the time even post show where I've, traveled the world and everybody wants to talk about the show and what it meant to them and what Catherine meant to them through her character and the joy she brought. And I just feel, particularly seeing the outpouring of tributes and connections over the last few days, it's such a mixed emotion of deep grief and sorrow and pride for what we did on that show, how Canadians and people around the world embraced it and connected with it. So it's been just an odd couple of days of processing all of it. So I really appreciate being here, having the opportunity to talk about it.
I'm glad that you're here. And I got to say, like, that speechlessness was a sort of a shared emotion. I think like that was my first reaction, is sort of an unwillingness to go, like, I don't know what the world is without Catherine O'Hara. I don't know what it's like to have a world without her continuing to put out work, Jennifer, let me ask you about your reaction to the news when you heard. What went through your mind?
I was just gutted. My friend texted me, and she just texted me Catherine O'Hara, and I was like, "What?" My friend's an actor, so I thought, "Oh, maybe she got a part with Catherine." And then to find out that she had passed was just so shocking, and I just wanted more time. I was like, "This is too soon. I'm not ready for this." And as celebrity deaths go, like, this one just keeps hitting me. Like, obviously I don't know her. I'm a great admirer of hers, but it's like a light in my comedy firmament went out, and it's devastating.
The idea of like we should have had more time with her is something that sort of keeps returning to me. She's 71 years old, but also she was sort of entering an era of her career where she was just sort of doing these incredible roles like The Studio, roles like the one that she did in The Last of Us, where she kept on sort of finding new grounds to sort of keep exploring. Paul, you interviewed Catherine later on in her career, but you actually first crossed paths with her way back in the Queen Street West scene in the 80s. Do you want to talk about that? What was that like? What was she like?
Well, there's nothing like, the O'Hara sisters walking down Queen Street West in Toronto, and just you'd see Mary Margaret and Catherine, and of course Marcus O'Hara was a big feature on the scene too, more behind the scenes, but everyone knew Marcus. And Catherine and Mary Margaret were, for me, very significant. I was at a Squeeze show, the group Squeeze, and it was at the concert hall in Toronto, and my brother Mike and I were there, and Mike's a comedian and I'm a musician, and I would look over and I'd go, oh my God, it's the O'Hara sisters, and they like Squeeze too. And it was like, it was so exciting to see them in real life. And then years when Mike became famous for comedy, and I'm a musician and I knew all the musicians on Queen Street, and people would see me and Mike walking together. And I said, as a joke, I said, like, I wonder if we're somebody's O'Hara sisters. Like, and it was just, and of course, recognizing the audaciousness of that comment, but it was, there's definitely that feeling that they, like in Toronto, especially, obviously all of Canada mourns her loss, and all of actually the world, because I live in California, and Jennifer, before the show, Jennifer was just saying about this wall of grief, but also this wall of celebration that happens on our socials right now. And I want to make sure, like Jennifer mentioned it, and it was like something that I'm glad you said, Jennifer.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're really, thank you. I think we're in this time of like awful people, like truly garbage humans. And that's what my news feed is filled with, of just really distressing, awful stuff that I feel powerless to impact in so many ways. And now it's full of Catherine O'Hara. And I realize that she has been a through line through my whole life. First of all, it's just nice to see the most beautiful shining light again and again. Yeah. But it's like crazy. Like my friend shared with me a Dristan commercial she was in the 70s that I was like, evoked this like little kid memory of like, oh my God, I remember that commercial. I didn't even know who Catherine O'Hara was, but I was like, yes, that was always on TV. So it's amazing how she kind of hits all these different parts of your life and all these different times in your life.
I multi-generational too, that's been my experience. I have a 16-year-old daughter, and she's so connected and grieving because, through Schitt's Creek and, that connection. But then you talk to my generation, it's Home Alone. That was sort of our real foundational exposure to her, and we became great fans. And then a few years prior to that, it's the SCTV. So and a Dristan commercial too. I had no idea.
And all the Christopher Guest films, right?
Oh my God, yes.
I mean, that, like, she redefined sketch comedy again twice in her career. In terms of improv sketch comedy, and Moira Rose is an eternal character now.
Well, I was going to say that, like, what I was thinking about the other day is I was thinking about, I was rewatching it on Saturday, Andrew. It was like this clip of when she accepted her Canadian Screen Award for playing Moira Rose. And halfway through that speech, she flips to the Moira Rose character. She accepts it as Catherine, and then she sort of breaks into the character, and like the room cannot stop giggling. And there's just something so eternal, I think, about that character. And if you guys don't mind, I'd just like to play just a little bit of Moira Rose on the show. So let's hear that right now.
Here's what you do. You just fold it in.
Okay, I don't know how to fold broken cheese like that.
And I don't know how to be any clearer. You take that thing that's in your hand, and you...
If you say fold in one more time...
It says fold it in!
This is your recipe. You fold in the cheese then.
Don't you dare.
You fold it in.
David!
And Andrew, I genuinely cannot, I can't get enough of Catherine O'Hara as Moira. I think the world can't either. What was it like working with her? What was she like to work with?
That clip, that was episode 2 of season 1. And, it was such early days. And we all, I was on set for that. And I just remember, and I think everybody that was on set that day was like, what a ride we're getting on. And she did not disappoint. The risk she took, the way she pushed that character to its extremes, but still being so consistent in the character and in Moira. It was a ride. And she showed up every day. She embraced the community and what we were doing. It was so special, and she was just always so welcoming to everybody. But my family would show up, and she was there with open arms, and she was proud of what she did, and we got to know her family along that journey. And it's just so special, just such a bright light from beginning to end. And it's so, it is, as we talked earlier, it's just so nice that light is still shining.
I love these words that we're using to describe Catherine O'Hara and her work. You were describing her as a light. Earlier, Jennifer, you described her as also a light in your comedy firmament. Talk to me a little bit about You're a sketch comic, and you're an actor. Talk to me about what she meant to you, what she represented to you, Jennifer.
I mean, she's literally the reason that I'm in comedy. You know, SCTV was appointment television for me, and I would race home from school to watch it every afternoon. And I do remember seeing her do this sketch called Milk of Amnesia. Where she's kind of this. Do you remember Milk of Amnesia, right?
I think I'll take some now before I forget. Remember, that's, what was I saying?
I thought it was just the funniest thing I had ever seen, but it actually, like I was too young to know I wanted to be a comedian or an actor or any of that, but something dropped in me that made me go, that's how you do it. That's what it is. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
And because I think also too, at that time, you have to remember comedy was so male dominated. So to see a woman being super funny, holding her own, but she wasn't at that point playing a big character. She was just playing herself, and it was fantastic. And she inspired, I know for a fact, not only me, but generations of people and women to get into comedy because she was so accessible, and she had this way of making it seem like so much fun, even when she's playing somebody who's not the most likable character or like the villain. Her joy in performing is contagious, and that was really inspiring.
I have not seen the Milk of Amnesia sketch, but I'm going to find that the minute that the show ends because of the gigantic grin that it put on Paul's face. I mean, Paul, when we sort of think about Catherine O'Hara, she was sort of like this product of the Big Bang sort of moment in Canadian comedy, right? Like you had people like John Candy, Eugene Levy, Martin Short, all come up through Second City. What do you think she brought to the cast? Because that cast is so stacked. What was the thing that made her unique, you think?
Okay, so, you know, in that clip you played where Moira has this little bit of a cry in her voice when she's describing the folding, there's this thing that she also had in her Lola Heatherton character on SCTV. She had I'm calling it an anarchic sense, a kind of a manic sense of her characters were just about to pop off. They're all about to just explode. They're on the edge of it. But it doesn't make you tense. It's delightful. Like you're delighted in this dance. She's winking to you. She's letting you know this is how crazy humans get. And my favorite comedians bring that humanity to it. You know, I wrote that book about Candy, and the reason I'm mentioning it only is that they all came up together in this Second City world where they were learning not just how to do a Canadian take on Chicago improv, but they turned it into this thing that had a lot of depth of emotional intelligence. And I think it's a super ingredient. And I know that I see it in Jennifer's work. I see it in a lot of people who came after. And I think that the bar was established, you know, and Catherine is like, legend doesn't even say it.
No.
It's a trite word almost. It's a trope. You don't want to say legend. You want to say whatever that other thing was that she was.
My name is...
and I think
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think one of the things that's super huge about it too is just that, you know, also Canadian television was so American dominated at the time, and we're always trying to make American things. And SCTV was just Canadians being funny as Canadians are. And I think, and that spread worldwide. And she's part of that.
Scrappy, so scrappy, and just you know, finding a way. And there's just something special about that. Like she found a way and was just willing to take the risks and put herself out there and be vulnerable. It's what a career. I
gotta tell you guys, I'm just so grateful for the warmth and the beauty of this conversation. My name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud, and this show is called Commotion. Paul Myers is here, and Jennifer Whalen is here, and Andrew Barnsley is here, and we are all remembering the great Catherine O'Hara, who died last week at the age of 71. Look, Catherine O'Hara's name has been a legend for many decades, but there's a whole generation that knows her from this particular role right here.
I am trying to get home to my 8-year-old son. And now that I'm this close, you're telling me it's hopeless.
I'm sorry.
No, wait. This is Christmas, the season of perpetual hope.
Ma'am,
And I don't care if I have to get out on your runway and hitchhike. If it costs me everything I owned, if I have to sell my soul to the devil himself, I am going to get home to my son.
Catherine O'Hara is, of course, Kate McAllister in Home Alone. Andrew, what's the thing that makes this performance so memorable, you think?
Well, first of all, just seeing that and with John Candy in the background, boy, is that powerful. That performance, you know, the movie is so goofy, but and lovable, but she grounds it. She's the one that makes it that we can connect to it. It's a mother who's made a mistake, needs to fix it, and it's something I think as a child we could relate to, and as an adult, as a parent you can relate to, and it's so it's those emotions are real and hilarious and really such a counterbalance to kind of the slapstick that's sort of the throughout the movie. But yeah, that performance is also another iconic role, and that crosses generations. It's that's a tradition now. Like people watch that movie every year, and yeah, it's lovely.
I gotta say, Paul, it's not easy to make the leap from sketch comedy to a sustainable career in film and television. But Catherine O'Hara not only did it, she sort of became the blueprint for a lot of people. What's the thing that you think made her have the longevity that she has had in her career?
Well, I guess the first thing I think is that she was selective. She didn't, that expression, we work to live, we don't live to work. Like her thing was she wanted to do good work. She wanted to do work that was meaningful to her. And, this is something that I remember reading a 1983 interview where she had left Second City Television, and she was saying, among the things she wanted to do was have kids and find a husband, which was such an almost anti-feminist thing to say, but she was saying it in a way of saying, I get to do everything I want to do. And if they're only offering me little housewife roles or honey, I'm home roles, like where it's just all you're only, the Bechdel test is low for these characters. She says, no, I'm not going to do that. But then she gets roles like Heartburn and Beetlejuice. And then Home Alone was a chance to play a different kind of mom. And it was a mom with guts and determination and ingenuity. And so it had what we call agency, and it was, and she brought that energy to it again, that manic, just on the edge energy. And then she gets to play with Candy again. She gets to riff with Candy. Like that for her must have been a huge draw. Yeah. And I think Hughes wrote the perfect script for her,
I've seen one of the sort of obits kind of flying around. One of the quotes from her is she talked about having this recurring dream where she's hanging out with John Candy, and there's a moment where she says, in my dream, John Candy and I eventually I say to him, "Aren't you dead?" And he says, "Why did you bring that up for?" And then there's something really lovely about the fact that it's nice to imagine them together. It's nice to imagine them sort of spending this moment kind of together. If you can sort of access that feeling and that idea. Look, can I share with you guys my favorite Catherine O'Hara scene? It's one of the later Catherine O'Hara scenes. It's from The Last of Us. It's from HBO's The Last of Us. She only has a 3-episode arc, and she plays this therapist. Her name is Gail. And the main character, played by Pedro Pascal, has to sort of have a bit of a confrontation with her. And let's just play a little bit of that scene right now.
Let's try something different.
Like what?
Oh, like not pretending you have the most boring problem in the world. Well, a 19-year-old daughter, she's acting toward me like every 19-year-old daughter has ever acted toward their dad, ever. What is this, our 5th session? Are you just gonna keep grouching on like this every time?
Aren't you supposed to be validating me or something?
Oh, yeah, actually I am. But I'm not gonna do it anymore. Because you're lying to me, and it's exhausting.
Jennifer, it really feels like Catherine O'Hara found another gear in the last 10 years of her life. At a moment when a lot of people might have been winding down their careers, she did The Studio, for which she was nominated for a bunch of awards. She did The Last of Us, and she did Schitt's Creek. We are talking about just that alone, that stretch alone can cement you as one of the best actors of your generation, let alone everything that she did before that. When you think about the longevity of her career and the sort of the later stages of Catherine O'Hara, what do you think she brought to the table as an older actor who's sort of still dominating the scene?
I mean, she brought the decades and decades of control, mastery of her art, life experience. I think that's partly why I feel ripped off. I'm like, wow, she was doing this amazing work at 71. I wanted to see what she was doing at 81, hopefully at 91, because it was so fantastic. Her vocal control, you kind of touched on it, Paul, was unreal. Like just the things she could do with a word, with the start of a word and the end of a word, and make them two different emotional thoughts is really hard to do. And she made it look so simple. And I think that she was, you know, she kind of always played these high status rogues in a way. She kind of played women who had agency, as you said, Paul, but were kind of playing by their own rules. The rules weren't always, I mean, Moira's a bit unhinged. The rules were not always great, but they were really fun, and it was fun to see it. And I have to say, oh my God, I love her to the end of time for also having a natural face. She's a woman who looked her age, and we don't see that anymore. And to have that humanity come through just made me love her even more. And in Last of Us, I lived for those therapist scenes. I want the therapist to have a spin-off. So she's that good.
You know, it's I was so struck when I sort of turned on those episodes of The Last of Us, and then there she is, and she didn't even watch the first season when it was out. She said, like that her kids were the people who said maybe you should watch this, and then that's how she ended up in the second season of it. Andrew, shortly after learning that Catherine had died, you posted this photo that you took of her moments after she won the Emmy in 2020 for Moira Rose in Schitt's Creek. When you look at that photo now, what's the thing that it makes you think of?
What I'm like, I don't even have words to talk about that moment. We had been through so much. That was taken in the middle of the pandemic. We had all been masked and tested, and to such a degree that allowed us to come and gather together for that moment. And we had been to the Emmys the year before where Catherine was nominated, and we had this opportunity to come and celebrate together really for one last time, and we didn't know what was going to happen. We all knew Catherine was so worthy of winning that award, but we still felt like the odds were stacked against us. And that evening, the first award to be announced was that award, and she won, and it really was an out-of-body experience for me. And I was just I raced to her table, and I didn't know what to do. I just took this picture because it felt so important, and what we had all been working towards for 6 seasons, and to be recognized on the global stage while we were in Toronto, and it was just this small core group of people. It was incredibly special. And when I was going through my photos and trying to think about what I wanted to say and how best to honor her, that was sort of the moment that I felt represented kind of what we had achieved, what she had achieved, how we had touched the world, the reach of it all. And it was just, like I said, I don't really remember doing it. It was such a moment where it was just this reaction, and I had to get up and take that picture and celebrate. And anyway, that was sort of the moment that, even when I reflect back on Catherine, she just brought so much to the Schitt's Creek experience, from her openness and all this stuff I was saying before. But that was sort of this culminating moment that was just so special.
It's worth noting that, it was the first award of the night, and maybe the Schitt's Creek crew is wondering, hey, maybe this is the only one we're going to get. But not so much.
We would have been happy. We would have been happy if it was the only award we got. Like, that's
not what ended up happening.
We had all won in that moment.
You took home
that's not what
the most awards of any comedy's ever taken home in one night. Paul, I just want to give you the last word here. I got about a minute left. As we sort of continue to process the loss of Catherine O'Hara, how do you want Canadians to remember her?
Well, Jennifer said it earlier, like, she's one of us. She's one of us, and she exported that. Now a lot of people talk about heated rivalry now, and what a Canadian show it is, and how it is exporting a Canadian style. We didn't think we could do that years ago, and now we know we can. And Catherine proved it. And also something that's come up here is that she had not retired and gone to the desert, much like Betty White. She had so much more to tell. She had so much more to do. We thought we were going to get 10, 20 more years.
Yes.
And she would retire on her own terms, and just, and with all her laurels. And it's just, we're robbed of that. But I think we should be very proud of her. And, someone once said about another, I think it was Leonard Cohen, they said, don't mourn that they passed so much as celebrate that they lived. And that's always stuck with me. And thankfully, this is on recorded media. So we have a chance to always go back to the well. And as long as the big magnets don't erase all the media, and the streamers go offline, so physical media is your best friend.
I want to say,
I
want to say thank you to all of you for being here. This has been a lovely celebration of Catherine O'Hara. Thanks again for your time, you guys.
Thanks,
Elamin. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Paul Myers is a host of the Record Store Day podcast. He's also the author of a book called John Candy, A Life in Comedy. Jennifer Whalen is an actor and comedian. You can catch her on Small Achievable Goals and Baroness Von Sketch. Andrew Barnsley is a TV and film producer. His work includes Son of a Critch and Schitt's Creek. If you're looking for more on the life and legacy of Catherine O'Hara, you can, of course, head over to CBC News. My name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This show is called Commotion. We'll see you tomorrow.